This session, Deep Dive into SDI, is intended to provide campus administrators with an overview of specially designed instruction and resources that are currently available. Our mission is to positively transform the learning experience for students. We know that if we concentrate our efforts to ensure this happens, then we can make our vision a reality, and every day, every student will grow in confidence, curiosity, and capability. Our first objective is to help our administrators develop a common understanding of specially designed instruction and be able to articulate it to others. We also want to clarify how specially designed instruction differs from other types of special education support. Before diving into specially designed instruction, let's start with how a student qualifies for special education services. There are two factors that need to be met in order for a student to qualify for special education services. The first is that a full and individual evaluation must determine a student has met TEA criteria as a student with a disability in a particular area or areas. Then, the art committee determines that due to the student's disability, the student has a need for specially designed instruction, which is how the student qualifies for special education services. So, what does this mean? It means that specially designed instruction is synonymous with special education. Every student with an IEP must receive specially designed instruction. This is why it is so important to understand exactly what SDI is and create systems on campuses that facilitate its delivery. We'll continue by clarifying how these three terms, which are often used interchangeably, are actually very different and serve distinct purposes. Let's compare SDI to differentiated instruction and other day-to-day SE support that might be provided. These are the basic characteristics of differentiated instruction. DI are good teaching practices every teacher should be using routinely, regardless of setting or student population. Differentiated instruction can be designed and delivered by both the general and special education teacher. Day-to-day SE support is what we provide students receiving special education services in order for them to be successful with typical assigned tasks linked to the grade level content. This type of support is not always planned and is at times reactive to an observable struggle the student might be having completing a particular assignment. Examples include providing oral reading of a text, providing a graphic organizer, or rephrasing or chunking directions. This support can be both designed and delivered by either the general or special education teacher. Specially designed instruction goes beyond differentiated instruction and standalone accommodations and modifications. SDI addresses the unique needs that exist because of a student's disability. Specially designed instruction should be delivered in addition to, not in place of, differentiated instruction and/or high-yield instructional strategies. More specifically, specially designed instruction include changes to the content, methodology, and/or delivery of instruction that is linked to the IEP and is purposefully planned to address a student's unique critical needs. The responsibility of designing SDI is that of the special education teacher or other specialist, such as a speech pathologist. However, both the general educator and special educator can deliver the instruction. Much of the work we do across the district is based on Dr. Marilyn Friend's research and field experience. Here she is clarifying specially designed instruction.
I'm here at the 2016 Focus on Inclusion Conference with Dr. Marilyn Friend. So welcome.
Thank you.
And Dr. Friend, you are presenting on specially designed instruction. What is specially designed instruction?
That's a very simple question that has a very multidimensional answer. First and most basically, if you look at the regulations in federal special ed law, specially designed instruction is actually the definition of special education, and it's the required service that every student with an IEP must receive, so that whether a student is educated in a separate setting or perhaps through co-teaching in a general ed setting, when a special ed teacher is there to work with the student, specially designed instruction has to be a part of that. Specially designed instruction is very multifaceted. It includes academic, but also behavioral, social, emotional, organizational, and other strategies and techniques that are designed to ensure that students' IEP goals are met, and also that there are durable characteristics as learners. For example, if they have problems with language processing or they have memory issues, that those characteristics are also addressed as part of the instructional process. We know that specially designed instruction is occurring when students receive instruction that is very much tailored to just them, when it is deliberate, it is monitored, there's data collection involved, and when it involves specialized techniques that are not available to other students. Too often people will say, oh, we differentiate, and so therefore students are getting their specially designed instruction. And that actually is not true. Differentiation is what we do for all students in order to address their needs. Specially designed instruction is on top of that. Further, some people say specially designed instruction is the accommodations that students receive. That's not accurate either, because accommodations are the tools students get. Specially designed instruction is the instruction we deliver to them in order to help them succeed.
Great, thank you very much.
In a moment, you will have the opportunity to expand on your understanding of specially designed instruction by reading an excerpt from one of Dr. Friend's books. I would like you to frame your reading by thinking about this question. What is the impact to a student who qualifies for special education services but does not receive specially designed instruction? You can access the excerpt by following the QR code or entering the shortened URL into your browser search bar. Please be aware that the quiz following this session will include at least one question from this excerpt. Please pause this video now and continue after you have completed the reading. After reading, you might have new understandings of what SDI is or have had your ideas validated. It's important to understand that instructional leaders and teachers across the district are also at various levels of understanding. Because of this, it is important to reflect on your own campus and begin planning on what possible next steps might be appropriate for you. Take a moment to choose one of these questions and jot down a few thoughts. Please pause the video and resume when ready. It's time for a quick recap. Differentiated instruction is good instruction for all students. It meets the needs of diverse learners' abilities and backgrounds and allows teachers to scaffold instruction. Specially designed instruction is instruction that has been adapted for a student with a disability who has an IEP. The instruction provided is to help the student master an IEP goal or objective. Specially designed instruction goes beyond differentiation to address the unique needs of that child's disability by making changes to the content, methodology, and/or delivery of instruction. Finally, SDI must be documented. As a campus administrator, the only method you have to ensure that specially designed instruction is delivered is by comparing the instruction to the IEP. This most commonly happens by comparing lesson plans or other logs to the IEP. You will now test your knowledge by using real-world scenarios. Your task will be to read each scenario and determine if it is an example of SDI or not, and why. To help you with this task, we have provided you with a quick reference guide. You can access this document via the QR code or shortened URL. Please pause the video and proceed when ready. Here is the first scenario. Mr. Harrison and Mr. Samuel co-teach a 7th grade class. As they plan their unit, they determine that the majority of students will most likely struggle with identifying claims and counter-arguments. Mr. Harrison, the SE teacher, drafts a graphic organizer to help students through the process. Both teachers review it, and after some input from Mr. Samuel, the final draft is ready to go. Mr. Harrison and Mr. Samuel use the graphic organizer to support student learning as they teach the lesson using a parallel structure. After the lesson, they both review the student work and are pleased to document that the majority of their students are showing understanding at the mastery level. Let's look at some key information. This is a co-teach class where teachers know most students will struggle with the content. The SE teacher takes the lead in drafting a graphic organizer that will help students, and the general education teacher reviews it and provides input. Using the parallel co-teach structure, both teachers provide instruction using the graphic organizer. Their efforts proved effective in that the majority of students mastered the content. So, is this an example of SDI? You may pause the video if you require additional time to analyze the scenario. The correct answer is no. This is not an example of SDI because it is not designed for a student receiving special education services. This is core instruction that is not aligned to the IEP. On to scenario number 2. A 6th grade math co-teacher is aware that one of her students has an IEP goal related to organizing mathematical ideas. The teacher makes a plan to work with the student using a 3-row table to record the parts and the whole in a ratio. The teacher explains the process, then models all but the last step, allowing the student to complete the process. Later, the teacher models all but the final 2 steps, then continues backward chaining until the student can independently complete the entire process. Let's look at some key information. Again, we have a co-teach classroom. but this time the focus is on a particular student with an IEP goal. The teacher makes a plan and then provides instruction that includes modeling until the student can independently complete the targeted process. So, is this an example of SDI? You may pause the video if you require additional time to analyze the scenario. The correct answer is yes. It is specially designed instruction because it is tied to the IEP. The explicit instruction is planned and purposeful and designed to promote independence. Finally, the progress is monitored. I would like to point out that other students who might benefit from the instruction designed for this student could be included in a small group. SDI does not always require one-on-one instruction. Here is our final scenario. It is a much longer one, so you might want to take notes as I read. Joanne has been identified as having a learning disability. One of her IEP goals states that she will be working towards grade level fluency. Her SE teacher, Mrs. Warren, reviews all available data and, based on her findings, proceeds to choose 3 fluency passages for the week. Mrs. Warren documents this on the lesson plans and explains the expectations to Joanne at the beginning of the week. Joanne practices the fluency passages. On Fridays, Mrs. Warren administers a fluency test and records the information. Based on this new data, she then selects new weekly passages at a more advanced level. After 4 weeks, to increase Joanne's independence, Mrs. Warren is able to purchase a license to Fluency Now, a computerized commercial program that provides increasing rigor with use and is sure to maintain high expectations of the user. The program will also collect and record data that Mrs. Warren plans to use for the next annual ARD. In order to advance more rapidly, Joanne spends 2 full class periods a week on the program. Her grades are not impacted, however, because the gen ed teacher excuses her from that core content and will remove any corresponding questions from any formative or summative assessments that Joanne is expected to take. Let's look at some key information. First, we see that it is focused on a student with a learning disability and an IEP goal in fluency. The SE teacher reviews data and develops a plan which she documents. The student practices fluency using passages selected by the teacher, and her progress is monitored weekly to determine which new practice passages will be selected next. The SE teacher then uses a commercial program to increase rigor. Data is still being collected. Last, we see that the student's grades will not suffer because she will be excused from any core content missed while she is working on this goal. So, is this an example of SDI? You may pause the video if you require additional time to analyze the scenario. The correct answer is no, it is not SDI. Some of you might have reached this decision based solely on the second half of the scenario, which describes the use of a commercial program and the student missing out on core content, and you would be correct in your thinking. However, even if we just focused on the first half of the scenario, it would still not be an example of SDI. The reason is because although this SE teacher worked very hard, there wasn't any actual instruction provided to the student. Specially designed instruction must include direct teach first and foremost. I take the time to highlight this because, as a campus administrator, you must look past that first impression and truly verify if specially designed instruction is being delivered to students as is legally required. To assist you and your teachers, we have created an SDI Google site where we house all available resources. This is the homepage. Foundational information such as the video and resource sheet used in this session can also be found here. Also included are TEA publications, YouTube videos, and available self-paced courses on Unified Talent. Most useful for teachers is the information found under the Instructional Supports tab. Here, teachers will find SDI strategies and supports to use with their students. All the pages are organized in a similar manner, so we will only take a brief look at the reading and writing page. Each section begins with the SDI strategies a teacher or other specialist can use, followed by the accommodations or modifications that can be provided to students. There is also a printable version of this. This includes a blurb that explains how a deficit in each area might manifest. And again, we see the SDI strategies organized separately from the accommodations and modifications. Most useful to you might be the resources located under the Administrators tab. At the very top, you will find a printable quick reference guide with the basics of SDI, which includes an explanation of what is meant by content, methodology, and delivery, roles and responsibilities for both the special and general educators, and even an example of what it might look like when documented. Also available are links to the TEA T-Test Leadership Tools, which supports administrators in the evaluation process of special educators. When you scroll down on this page, you will also see a "What do I focus on when visiting the classroom?" These are some look-fors or indicators that SDI is most likely being delivered. However, remember that the only way to truly verify is by comparing the instruction with the IEPs. In summary, here are our district's expectations. SDI must be planned, purposeful, and monitored. It must be connected to the IEP and must be documented. As we move forward, we need to make sure that the minutes in the IEP reflect the actual minutes of SDI or direct teaching that the student needs, and not simply minutes when an SE teacher is in the room. Thank you for completing this session. If you have any questions, please reach out to your special education campus or area coordinator. You can also reach me directly via email.